Liliana Heker is the author of 5 volumes of short stories and 2 novels, and the founding editor of 2 literary magazines widely read in Latin America. During Argentina's years of violent repression, the so-called Dirty War, between 1976 and 1983, she kept writing and editing, helping to give voice to authors silenced by the regime. She has interviewed Jorge Luis Borges and corresponded extensively with Julio Cortázar.
Yes.
She lives in Buenos Aires, where we are today to talk about her life as a writer. Welcome to the Bibliophile.
Oh, thank you very much, Nigel.
You started early.
Yes.
Can you tell me how and when you first got your big break?
Well, when I was 16, I was finishing secondary school, and I did a course for entering in University of Exact Science, because my idea was to study physics. But at the same time, I loved very much to read. I think I read from I was 6 years old, and well, I wrote. I didn't think of being a writer. I wrote because, well, I was in love when I was 13, or because I was sad, or I was happy with everything that happened to me. I wrote. So when I finished the secondary school, I decided to look for a literary magazine. I went to a book shopping that was wonderful, and I read a lot of magazines, and I didn't like anything, because some was very boring and another was reactionary for the right. I was
too political, was it? It was political.
Political, yes, but perhaps they were not political. But well, I thought that the writers were in the right.
Yeah.
What is the right? You say the
right wing, left wing.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I never was in a party, in a political party. I didn't. It has nothing to do with me. But well, my ideas, my ideology is near the left. So I didn't like these magazines. But then I found one magazine. The name was El Grillo de Papel, the paper's cricket. Cricket is
the insect.
Yes, the paper's cricket. I read the text as editorial. The writers speak about their ideology, the position of the magazine.
Kind of an aesthetic statement?
Yes, more or less that. So I read that and I thought, this is my magazine. So there were the chiefs, the directors, were 4 writers. They were very young, so they were not well known. But I wrote a letter, and I wrote a poem. My brother-in-law, that was my sister was not married then. He was the fiancé of my sister. He gave me this typewriter to read the letter, so I wrote a letter and a poem. And then one of the chiefs, Abelardo Castillo, found me, and we met, and he told me he was wonderful. I think he was one of the major writers in this country.
One of the best.
I think that he died 2 years ago. And he told me, well, the poem is bad, but I think, because of the letter, I think that you are a writer. So he invited me to go to a meeting of the magazine. They met in one bar coffee that you can see. It is Café de los Angelitos.
And it's still now? It's still around?
Yes, it is, but now it is for tourists. Well, then I was 16. My family was a little afraid, very afraid.
Let's just look at that letter.
Yes.
Why did he think it was so good?
I think because of the style, the way I wrote, I don't know. We never recovered this letter.
But what did you put in the letter? What did you put emotion into it?
No, I thought,
was it just a straightforward?
No. I remember that I thought that I never. It is the truth. I never had met a writer. But I thought that I needed to meet writers to enter in this world. Well, perhaps my convictions could be seen in this letter.
Yeah.
Well, I
your
don't
desire.
know. Yes, I think so. He invited me, and I began to go. I was the youngest, of course, but not only the youngest. They went to these meetings, the young writers, old men,
except for
and the novias, fiancés of the writers, the young writers, and I was the only woman that went because of her. I did not go with a man.
No.
I went because I needed this world. I needed to write. So, I began to listen to excellent writers. They discussed about literature, about ideology, and I heard everything. And I think I began in the magazine in January in 1960.
Okay.
I think I always say that I am the genuine writer of the 60s because I began in January of 1960.
Okay.
And about May, I saw that everybody wrote short stories. So I tried to write a short story. It is not exactly like this. In one of these meetings, I think he was a poet, a little mad, but that, men that, and he told me, this is not a short story. And I wanted to kill him. And then I couldn't kill him. So I thought, I will write a short story. And
you'll kill him with your short story.
Yes, this is the truth. And then I sat on Saturday. I sat in my desk with this typewriter, and I began to write and wrote, and then I thought, how I will follow this, and then I read the last I had written, and I thought, this is an end. It is a good end, and like this, I wrote my first short story. When I read this short story in the magazine, everybody liked it, and they published it when I was 17. And well, for instance, Ernesto Sabato told, "Oh, what a good story." Beatriz Guido, that was a very good known writer, told, "A good story." Everybody liked this story. Well, this is the way I began to write stories.
So what was it about the story that made everyone like it? What was it?
I think it was the voice of it was the narrator, and was a little girl about 6 years old.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can read this story in the translation of Alberto, but it is a little girl says that nobody understands her mother wants that she plays as other children plays, but she liked to play with mind. Well, this is the character, the first character. And well, I think it has a good end. In the last number, the magazine, I was secretary of redaction, the last. It is, a title, no? But this magazine was forbidden with other publications that were in the left.
What year was that? Do you recall? When was that?
It was at the end of 1960. And then Abelardo Castillo and me, I was 17. Yeah. Well, we founded a new magazine, El Escarabajo de Oro, the Golden Bag. It is the name of a very well-known short story of Edgar Poe. It was a very, very important magazine, I think.
But why was the previous magazine banned and shut down? Why?
Well, I think it was not only this magazine. There were, 6 or 7 magazines. All magazines that had, there were some literary magazines, a humor magazine that was excellent, and some periodistic magazines. It were all sorts of magazines that had some ideology that could seem in the left.
So the government felt threatened by them, or they thought that the message would go to the people?
No, it was not dangerous for...
No.
No, our magazine was about literature, and perhaps it was a year ago happened the Cuban Revolution that had many to say to young writers and young people.
Yeah.
It was the first time that a revolution, a social revolution, happened in Latin America.
So they was afraid that the same thing might happen in Argentina.
No, I don't think so. It was very difficult but you have to see that the 60s were a time with a great mobilization in the world, a unique time. So, there was a great mobilization, and I think that, militaries and some oligarchs, you understand, were a little worried about what could happen.
Yeah.
I think that this was the reason. But Abelardo Castillo and me founded El Escarabajo de Oro, the Golden Bag, and I think it was better than the paper, the
paper cricket.
Yes, it was published until 1974, where here there was a hyperinflation, I don't know how to say, where everything is, the prices grow and...
Inflation.
Yeah, inflation, yes. So we were not be able to publish the magazine, because the magazine, we did everything. We wrote, of course, we chose the short stories and the articles and everything. We made the diagrams, and we made the distribution in the kiosks, we say, where magazines and newspapers are sold. We did everything. So we could sustain the magazine because, well, we distributed it and then they paid us and we could publish a new magazine. But with the inflation, it was impossible. So we had to finish. But we had then a new magazine during the dictatorship.
That's right, because so you closed it in 74, and then there was a military coup in 1976.
El golpe militar was in 76, yes. But we, in 77, founded a new magazine.
And they let you do that? They allowed you to do that?
No, they didn't allow to do that. We did that. That is another thing. Readers recognized the magazine. For instance, Abelardo Castillo and me, we put our names in color in the cover. So readers knew, Abelardo Castillo and Liliana Heker, and they knew that it was the same, in some way it was the same magazine.
It had the same quality. It was
yes,
they knew it was good.
Yes, but military people is not very cultured, has not culture, so they didn't know that it was a magazine with two young writers. Well, but I think that every magazine dialogues with its own time. So our ideology was the same. Our idea of literature was the same.
What was that idea of literature? What was that idea of literature?
The idea is the same I sustain now. I want a world where there would be social justice, where every person could have a good work, and everybody could study, and everybody could choose what they want to do. It is elementarily what I think about my idea of a world. And Castillo, he thought about the same.
But what does that have to do with literature? Is it that you should be free to write anything you want?
No, it is not like this. I think that in dictatorships, writers have a privilege, is that they know how to use words. Mm-hmm. So we could say a lot of things that readers could understand,
yeah.
But they were not pamphlets, political pamphlets. No. So, and we could, for instance, publish young writers that didn't publish in other medios. This is the center of my controversy with Cortázar. With Julio Cortázar, I had a controversy about literature and exile.
Yes.
Because he thought, well, I will simplify, yes, it's good.
It's good.
But he thought that everyone that had something to say had to go out, had to exile. And I told him that a writer is responsible of his own country, of his own place, and he can say what other people can't say. That was the idea of our third magazine, El Ornitorrinco. The translation is the platypus. Do
Yes,
you know the platypus? This name was because I thought that it was strange. It was very curious, this magazine in dictatorship time. So we put it the platypus, having our magazine and publishing young writers and saying what we wanted to say, but with perhaps we had to change our words, but we didn't change our ideas.
Yes, okay. So let me get this straight then. Your argument with Cortázar...
I didn't understand. Please
Yeah.
begin again.
I just want to clarify your debate with Julio Cortázar.
Yes.
He was saying that the writer should leave the country.
Yes.
So that the writer is free to say whatever he or she wants to say and write. And you're saying that the duty of the writer is to stay in the country.
Well, a writer can do what he wants to do. He has not to stay here or to go there. But it was not an argument that, well, out you can see, or you can say what you want. Yes, of course, but I wanted that my compatriots know what I want to say. Perhaps it was more difficult. Perhaps we had to change our words, but no, its sense. So it was not. It didn't have sense for me to say what I wanted, but out when my real readers couldn't read that. This was. Well, it was very long, and there were a lot of arguments, and of course, but more or less this is the center of what I wanted to say.
So you basically said, I'm going to stay here and change my words, but the message is going to stay the same.
Yes, of course.
And because I'm staying here, I'm able to communicate with the people in my country,
yes,
and get my message out to them.
Yes.
And someone in exile, the government's not going to allow their stories to get into the country. Is that it?
More or less, it was possible. Of course, we read Cortázar. We could read some writers. It was not easy, as in democracy times, of course, but it was possible to write. It was more or less possible to publish and to read. And well, of course, dictatorship is not a comfortable
it's frightening,
time, of course, but I think that an intellectual has the responsibility of, try to do the best with its ideas, with its literature. And well, it was my idea, it was Abelardo Castillo's idea. This is the reason, because we stayed here and published our magazine and wrote our books. I think that a writer perhaps can be forbidden to publish, but you always are free in your own place. For instance, here I am free of writing what I want, and perhaps I can publish, but I will be able to publish years after. Well, this is my idea. It is very difficult for me to say what I think in English, of course.
Yes.
But you can understand me?
I can, but I do have another question about the writing that you did publish.
Yes.
If, for example, you said that a government that didn't allow free speech should be overthrown, that's going to get your magazine banned, right? But you basically said the same thing, but differently. Is that correct? You said it in a subtle way that allowed you to get that message out, that the regime should be resisted, but in such a way that they didn't ban your magazine.
Well, it was possible. During dictatorship, like happened here, we had risk all the time. Many people was missing. They were.
That's the euphemism. 30, they were murdered.
Yes, of course. This was the risk. This was the country we were living in. But I think that an intellectual, while he is alive, he has to try to say what he thinks, to say to the other what he thinks. It was all we had the risk. It was really dangerous to live here. I think that the worst for a writer is not the censor, but the auto-censor. When a writer, do you understand
censor themselves?
Censor? Do you understand what is censor? The censor, sometimes they fail. They are not perfect. They fail. But when a writer makes auto-censor, no, I will not write about that because perhaps I have a risk. Well, I think that it is not a good thing for a writer.
So you think the writer should risk their lives to say what they want to say?
I think, but if you have an idea, you have to express this idea. There is another thing. I am a writer. I love literature and I love arts, and I think that defend literature is a way of defending our ideas too. Mm-hmm. To try that young people publish, to try that great writers from here and from other countries could be read for our compatriots. It's a good thing. It's a way to express our ideas, of course, because I am a writer. I am not a political woman, of course, but I have an idea of the world. So I want to express my idea, and I have to defend my work, what I chose, the literature.
Yeah.
So, I thought that being here and publishing our magazine was a way. It was not, of course, the only way. But here, there were Madres de Plaza de Mayo. Do you know what our mother? Well, it was the first movement that happened, not only here, but I think in Latin America. They mothers of missing people.
Yeah.
They joined us. They had a white handkerchief in their heads, and they defended their rights, and well, they really were exceptional.
This was during the dictatorship.
Yes, of course.
Yes, yes.
They every Thursday they went to Plaza de Mayo. They rounded the plaza, and well, it was they were persecuted, well, but they now are very, very old, and they follow fighting and defending their ideas. It's wonderful. So, there were a lot of movements here during the dictatorship, and there was an experience, a wonderful experience, that was named Teatro Abierto, open theater. A lot of authors wrote plays about dictatorship and freedom. Every play had to do with what happened there. And all the theaters, it was a very important movement.
So eventually, did it result in anything? Your efforts and the efforts of all these playwrights?
Begin again.
Yeah.
Yes, begin again.
So what happened?
With this Teatro Abierto?
Well, that and the mothers of the missing.
Well, they were persecuted. Some theaters were quemados.
Closed?
No, fired.
On fire?
In fire, yes. It happened a lot of things, and nothing was easy. Nothing was easy, but well, it was possible to do something. I think that it was a way of resistance, cultural resistance. That was my idea, and this was one of the things I debated with Cortázar. Mm-hmm. That was my friend. I loved Cortázar. I loved his ideas because he was a wonderful man, and I loved his literature. But I think that you can debate with your friend, of course, and well, that was the idea of this debate. Yes.
So, do you think all of your resistance, you understand?
No.
You think all of the resistance
because
resulted in the dictatorship being overthrown sooner?
No, I don't think so. I don't think we were heroes. No, nothing at all. No. But I think that in some way we allowed that literature didn't die, and ideas didn't die.
Yeah, in English, the ideas weren't suppressed.
Yes, I think we didn't allow that they did.
They didn't silence you.
Of course, I think that silence is a way of death. To be able to speak, to say some things, to publish young writers, was a way of resistance. And the workshops, in this time, I began in this time to coordinate workshops because outside everything was forbidden. But in these little places where you listen to young writers and you discussed about short stories. It was also a way of resistance. They were very, very important. I love workshops. Now I follow coordinating workshops, and a lot of writers, wonderful writers, were pupils of mine. But this phenomenon began during dictatorship, yes.
Okay, let's look at those workshops. What do you teach these young writers?
Well, now I have just finished a book about creative writing, about the process of creation. The name in Spanish is La trastienda de la escritura. In English is more or less the backstage of writing.
Okay.
So there I speak about something I take in workshops. What I love is to help writers to find their own form, their own tools. I don't think that a writer can teach to others to be a writer.
No.
But I think that every writer learns his work, his
method. Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes the opinion of another person, a writer, can open ways, and a young writer can learn some tools of his own métier, oficio. No? I think I love to coordinate workshops, and I think that people loves this my way of writing. I always say that we are all writers. They are not my pupils, and I am the teacher. No? Well, perhaps I have more experience, but I try to do something that was for our generation, meeting in cafes. When I was in the 60s, 10 young writers joined us in a cafe, and one of us had finished a short story, then he read it, and all of we discussed it, and it was full of passion, and we learned in this way, in these discussions and these readings. With the dictatorship, this finished. It was impossible for 10 young writers to join in a cafe and to discuss. But the workshop, as I understand it, is more or less like these meetings. Everybody speaks, everybody has an opinion of the reading of his companions, and I think that, I insist a lot in correction. I think that the real creation is in correction. When you have your first version of a short story, for instance, it is not what you want to do. Sure.
No, but it's good to get something out so you can then work on something.
That's what I sustain. I think that the first version for me is the necessary, mal necesario. It is needed. You can't work without that first version. You need that. But it is not what you want. It is not what you are looking for. So then, when you have that, we change things, you go from third person to one
first
person, or vice versa, or you have, oh no, this beginning is not good, and no, I think this second phrase is the beginning, and you change the end, and well, you change everything.
Yeah.
Well, I insist a lot, and I always say my pupils, well, you can bring 10 times what you are writing. It has not importance that you finish a short story in 5 days or in 1 year. The only thing that matters is what you finally get.
Yep.
No?
Yep.
So, well, I insist in that, and my pupils agree with me. At first, they, no, I don't like, I get bored writing 10 years, 10 times the same. But then they find a pleasure in correcting. No? So, well, this is more or less what I do in the workshops.
So that's the essence of what you're saying in your book?
Yes, in some ways the book, well, it is not. For instance, I speak about different problems. For instance, well, the blank page. Oh, everybody says, oh, it is terrible. Yeah, the blank page is terrible for journalists, because they have to finish this article in
they have a
1
deadline.
hour.
A deadline, yeah.
But for a writer, the blank page is the possibility of writing everything. To write because an order. Well, it is not good. No, sometimes, for instance, a writer or a publisher house asks you a short story about something for an anthology. Well, it is a good thing to write because of an order. If they ask you something that has nothing to do with you, no, I don't like that. Well, I speak about that. It is a section that is the story of the story, no? Where I tell the story of some of my short stories since the moment when something made that, well, I think, I have to write a story with this.
It triggered you.
Yes, all the work I have to do to finally write the story. Another section is the novel and other adventures, because I say that writing a novel is like an adventure. When I have the idea of a short story, I know where I want to go. But when I have idea of a novel, well, perhaps I have a conflict I want to speak about, and perhaps I have a character, but nothing more. So I begin to write chapters or paragraphs or things that at first I don't know where they will go, and in some time I can construct something with that. So I think that to write a novel is, in some way, is an adventure. Well, all about that things I speak in the book, and other things, of course.
Okay.
Or about how to write with their own experience. Well, a lot of things.
I think Borges said that all writing is autobiographical.
Of course. Well, of course. And Borges, in every new edition, he corrected his
older stuff.
His text. Abelardo Castillo made the same. I love to correct. So I tried that my pupils find the pleasure of correct. and they find it.
Perhaps you could tell me then what you think makes up a really good short story versus a bad short story.
Well, I think it is very difficult to do a definition, but I think that in a good story, in a short story, if you put something, because that perhaps wonderful, but it has nothing to do in the story, well, it will be a bad story. Cortázar said that a short story wins by knockout.
In the fight.
Yes.
It wins by a knockout.
Of course. And the other, we say por puntos, but I don't know.
Maybe it's by decision?
By decision.
So the judges determine who wins?
Yes, of course. But
not the knockout.
Decision. So Cortázar says that novels won because of decisions. And for instance, Chekhov thought that in a good short story, if there is a pistol, yes?
On the wall.
A
pistol hanging on the wall.
I don't understand.
It's okay.
Well, there is a pistol cargada with bulls, yes, in the first phrase. The tiro has to sound in the last
one.
Yes,
yeah.
well,
yeah.
This is more or less, but I think I can recognize a good short story. Perhaps you can be wrong in some chapter in a novel, and the novel will be excellent.
Yeah.
But if you fail in a short story, the short story will be bad.
It's in English it's less forgiving. Yeah.
Yes, it is very intense. The short story is intense as a poem. For instance, when you read a novel and you love this novel, you want that novel will not finish.
That's right.
But when you read a good short story, you want that nobody will bother you because you want to read it and nothing more. It is a novel and a short story can be excellent. I am not saying that one genre is better than the other. No. But I think that any of them has his own rules. And what I say always is that the good short stories author, if imagine a novel, can read it, can write it, but the good novelist, it now always is capable of write a good short story. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So can you, this is just winding down here and in closing, can you tell me some of your favorite short stories that you've written and some of your favorites from other people?
Yes. Well, it is not easy for me to choose my own short stories. I know that the favorite for people is the Stolen Party, La Fiesta Ajena, but I don't know, it is not my favorite.
But it's the most popular and the most discussed.
Yes. It is, it is translated in a lot of languages. Now, I don't know, there are some short stories that I love. I love the Pastoral Symphony and Family Life. Some stories of other authors, yes, I can say. For instance, I don't know the translation of Salinger, A Perfect Day for the Banana Fish, for instance, is one of my favorite. I love some Flannery O'Connor stories. un hombre bueno, a good man is
Yes.
difficult
It's hard to find.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some other here in Argentina, well, we have excellent writers. Borges, for instance. From Borges, I love a lot of short stories, but I love especially El Zahir. It has not a translation because the word is like this. I love some El Perseguidor from Cortázar, some short stories by Castillo. He's an excellent short stories writer. Well, there are a lot of short stories that I love. I love to read short stories. Not only love to write short stories, but to read short stories.
And I think that's why you're so good, is because you love to read
Of
short
course,
stories.
I think that a writer learns reading. When you read, you learn a lot about how to write, of course.
I'm just going to put this in right at the end here, and I'll see if it works. Okay.
No.
Sorry. Yeah. About the first story that the most popular, your most popular story, the stolen
party.
The stolen party.
Yes.
The scene at the very end.
Yes.
Where the rich mother gives the little girl the money. The question is the little girl disappointed because she didn't get the same present that the other little girls got?
Yes, I think so.
Or is it so she's hurt? There's also the fact that it's like almost like being a prostitute, giving money to just because she did some work.
No. It is not. I think she has not an idea, or she doesn't think she's a prostitute. I don't think so. She wanted the present. She wanted to be treated
the same way as the other girl.
Yes, the terrible thing is that she feels different. The other, the rich woman, makes she feel different. She felt all the time during the party. She felt the queen of the party. She thought she was the best, and perhaps she was the best.
Yeah.
And this woman makes that she feel different, than she doesn't deserve at the present the other girls and boys receive. Her mother, yes, she is more conscious that the little girl, she knew that previously.
Yes.
That's the reason that she didn't want that her daughter went to the party, because she knew how rich people can behave, and she knew that her little girl would feel different. They will do. But in the moment that the girl is happy and meets her mother, she feels that everything is good. And then when she sees what Señora Inés does, I think this is terrible. That's the reason that she protects her daughter.
Yeah, she holds on to her, yeah.
Yes.
So the little daughter, is she made to feel like a servant, do you think? Or she doesn't understand that?
No, I don't know if she understands or not. At first, it doesn't matter to her. She feels that she is a friend of the other girl, and they are friends and nothing more.
And they're equal.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
She thinks that they are equal. There is no difference between them. So when the rich woman gives her the money, I think that in this moment she learns about social classes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, please let me thank you for speaking English to me.
Thank you. Thank you for you. That was very patient, because it is not easy for me to, I think, to express me, and sometimes it was not easy. It is terrible for me because, of course, I am used to use words.
Lots of words, big vocabulary. Yes.
Yes, it is terrible for me.
Yeah.
But I hope you will understand a little. Yes.
I do. Yes.
If there is something that is not clear and you can't write, please let me know, because writing I can be a little clearer, because I take time to write it. Yes.
That's great. Thank you. I've been speaking to Liliana Heker, who is the author of many short stories and several novels, and an editor and a workshop leader.
Yes, of course.
At her home in Buenos Aires. Now, you're published in English, your book of short stories.
Yes, in Yale.
At the Yale University Press,
yes.
Right?
Yes, I think that, it is for all English speaking countries.
Okay.
And, in Canada, the end of the story that published by Biblioasis, yes.
Biblioasis, yeah.
Biblioasis, yes, it is for United States too, but I am not sure that this novel was distributed in United States. Really, I don't know. In England, but I don't know what happens.
The book out of Yale University is called Please Talk to Me.
Please Talk to Me, yes.
Very good.
It is the phrase of one of the short stories.
Okay. Well, thanks again.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Wow.